was in a couple of weeks ago in Spearfish, and when I went in to pay for my gas, there was a young man behind the counter dressed up as a woman. And my reaction wasn't good. I just thought, oh no, here we go. Where's this going to go to? But then I remembered it was just a few months before I went into the bakery at the grocery store. And it was a young woman dressed up as a man and wanting to be a man. And I talked to her for a while. And I might mention something about that later. The one thing I noticed about this young man in the gas station is, and it was the same with the young lady in the bakery, is when you looked in their eyes, you couldn't help but see that they're in great distress. Deep distress. And I thought to myself after meeting this young man, I drove away and we had a nice conversation. It went well. I thought to myself, can anyone who is in this kind of deep distress be helped? Is there good news for anyone, regardless of what that inner struggle might be? Is there help for them? Is there good news for people who find themselves in that kind of position in life where they're in deep distress? And I drove away thinking, yes. Oh, there is. There's good news. Good news for those that are suffering. Good news for those that are in turmoil. There's good news and help for those who are in deep distress. And that good news is Christ. See, Christ came into the world that everyone, regardless of who they are, regardless of what their struggle might be it emotional, mental, physical, economical, whatever the hardship might be, Jesus came into the world and he brought good news for them. And the good news is that they might be born again. That they might be born again. Now, what does that mean? Born again. Well, in this culture, there's all kind of foolishness goes around about that term, but you know what it means? It means you get a do-over. It means you get a do-over in life. Someone says, well, you know, you look at the mess you're in and you think, if I could do it all over again, you can. You can. You can be born again and get a fresh start. Someone says, well, I wouldn't change anything, the choices I've made in my life. Don't talk nonsense. Of course you would. Why do you lie awake at night going through all the stupid stuff that you and I have done? I thought if I could just go back and change it. Listen, you can. You can. You can have a do-over. Someone says, well, you can't put the clock back. Of course you can. We do it all the time. We do it once a year. We put the clock back. If the clock is not set on the right time, you put it to the right time. Listen, God can fix you. You can set the clock right. You're back in your life again by giving you a do-over. But that's not the only good news. There's other good news for everyone who's distressed. There's forgiveness. Jesus came that your debts might be paid. And you know, I'm not excited about that enough. enough. Christ came into the world to wipe out the debt of sin that we have accumulated with God. This is like having all those credit cards paid, having the mortgage paid, having the car loan paid, having all your bills paid, having it all taken care of. That's why Christ came into the world, that we might be forgiven, that we might be redeemed, that we might be transformed inwardly. Because see, there's the root of our problems. It's not that we don't have enough food to eat. It's not that we don't have enough clean water. It's not that we don't have a big enough house. It's not that our car needs fixed. It's not that we have to have more people around us who tell us how wonderful we are. If we don't get fixed on the inside, we're never going to be fixed. The good news is, that's why Christ came, to reach into that pain, that distress, that inner agony. The good news is he's ready to do it for everybody. If you let him. If you let him. Or you can spend the rest of your life popping pills from the doctor that don't work, trying to make you happy. It'll never work. There's only one. There's only one. And all the surgeries that they get done and all the, affirmation that is handed out in society, they'll never be happy until they let Christ do that inner work of redemption within them. Transformation. Redemption and forgiveness is just a part of the good news. You got a date with death. It's not an if. It's not a might. It's coming. You're leaving. Bye. Bye to all the people that are leaving the world. Listen, you're hurtling towards eternity. Hurtling towards it. Do you remember when you were 18? That was last week. Remember? You felt that way? I was 18 last week, yeah. And now you're 50 odd. Listen, next time you look in the mirror, you're going to be 80. You're leaving. Do you know what the good news is? The good news is Christ has conquered death. He's conquered death. We have a date with death, and we're going with the one that's conquered it. Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. But not only has he conquered death, he has given us immortality. He's brought immortality to light. That's the good news. That we might not only overcome death, but that we might be immortals, resurrected from the dead, living in a new heaven and earth, the home of righteousness. This place is not good at the moment. This world is going to hell in a handbasket. They're testing nukes in Russia at the moment. Now, if you don't think we're close to a nuclear war, you're an idiot. We have never been closer. Bay of Pigs? A skirmish compared to what's going on. They're testing them in the next month. This eternity could be coming a lot faster than you think. The good news for us is regardless of what men do, regardless of what happens, Christ has brought immortality to light, resurrection, and this whole thing we call life is going to end well. It ends well because of Jesus. The whole story of man's crazy journey throughout history is coming to a successful conclusion because of Jesus. There's going to be a whole new beginning, a new heaven and earth, the home of righteousness, and everything ends well. no matter who they are, no matter why they're in deep distress. We're called to love them. Every one of them. Every one of them. Doesn't matter what they think they are. Doesn't matter what their friends tell them they are. Or the experts tell them they are. I don't care if they come in here thinking they're a lizard. We're going to love them. Every one of them. Because everybody, and this is so true, everyone has value in the eyes of God. Christ died for everybody. Absolutely everybody. How do we do that? How do we show folks who are in deep distress? How do we show them love? The conversation I had in the bakery that day kind of went this way. I saw the young lady. She came out. It was really quiet. It was late at night. I'm milling around, not knowing why I'm there. And something to do with bread was definitely on the list. And girl comes out. I says, have we met before? And she says, I don't think so. I said, maybe, do you go to church in town? Did we meet at church? And she says, no, I stopped going to the Roman Catholic Church because I'm a trans woman presenting as a man. She says, what's that mean? And she said, I'm a woman who feels more comfortable living as a man. So when did that start in your life? She says I was 15 and I was going through a lot of emotional stuff. I read a book. I have the name of the book here. I read a book. This book is Gay was the name of the book. And it explained my feelings. I started to transition to a man and I felt much better. That's what she said. I said, so is it true to say that when you were 15 years old, you started to have strong feelings that you might be a man? You read a book that you said those feelings mean you are a man, and you started acting like a man and you feel much better? And she said, yes. I said, what's a man feel like? Which is a reasonable question. And she said, I don't know. Then I asked her this. I says, have you ever had strong feelings in your life where you thought that the feeling was absolutely on the money, to go in the right direction, you found out you were wrong? Because I have. And she said, yes. Yes. She says, that's what I'm going through at the moment. So I'm questioning maybe my feelings are wrong, and that's why I'm holding me back for the next step in surgery. I said this to her, and listen, this needed to be said. If anything needs to be said. It says, Christians, we don't look at you as your sex. We look at you as a very special and significant person. And have you ever considered that maybe 80 years on this planet is not what you're made for? That maybe you're made for eternity? She says, sometimes I think there has to be something after this life. Sometimes I think it's just black. I said, would it make any difference to your situation if your life on this planet was just a spark in the eternal fire of eternity? And that you're made for eternity? And she paused and she said this, what would that look like? Oh, what a question. What a question. You see, that's a great question. We don't have time to discuss it right now. But we meet at 9:30 Sunday mornings at the rec center. And if you want to, come along. We talk about these things. But even if you don't want to come and worship, come and eat with us. and we'll talk about these things. And she said, and paused and said, I'll think about it. How do we love these people? We talk to them. We find out about them. We get to know them. And we invite them to come and eat with us so that we can get to know them more. And then we can tell them the good news. The good news of Jesus. The good news is that they're valuable. The good news that it's not all about your sex. It's that you're made for much more than just this time in this world. You're made for eternity. And we'll talk about how Jesus has secured that eternity for them. Do you know, the choice is not to accept or reject these people, or anybody, anyone in such deep distress. It's not a matter of accept or reject. The choice we have to make is to redeem. We must redeem people like this through the power of the gospel of Christ. That's what we have to do. In Acts 17, the apostles went into Thessalonica. It's now modern-day Turkey. They went into the town and they went to the synagogue and they preached Jesus. They went to the marketplace amongst all of the pagans, all of the secular, all of the weird religions, and they went in and they preached that Jesus Christ was crucified for their sins, that he died, he was buried, and he rose from the dead. And when they went into that town and preached that, there was plenty of people, nothing different from the world we're living in today. They went in and they preached that gospel, and the Jews got together and they got a mob and they attacked them. And they attacked them because they said they turned the world upside down. But the truth is, they didn't turn the world upside down. They were turning the world the right way up. The right way up. And that's what we're doing. That's what this gospel does. It puts the world the right way up because we're living in a world that's upside down at the moment. But there's good news. It can be turned the right way up by Christ. And how did they do that? Well, they went in and they told everyone, you know, you get a do-over. You know, you can have another chance at this. That's what they came in. They told them that they can be redeemed. They told them that their sins can be forgiven. They told them that God, through Jesus Christ, had set a day when he was going to judge all mankind. Now it was time for them to repent and believe the good news, because death had been defeated. And they could have immortality. They could beat death. And that's what they did. And that's what we're going to do. Because we're called not to turn the world upside down, but to turn it the right way up. And we're going to do that. And we're going to keep doing that. We're not going to stop doing it. We didn't get in this to make friends. We didn't become Christians because we wanted a nice group of people around us. A lot of us were happy enough with our own little group of friends. And in fact, I don't know, you can imagine what the Jews had to do with the Gentiles? I think about that at times. The people they had to sit down and eat with? No. We're in this to turn the world the right way up through Christ. That's what we're doing. Because the evil that exists around us, and boy, there's evil around us, is not going to be voted. It's not going to be voted out of the office. Regardless of the color of their flag, or whatever they say they are, whatever evil gets in there, you're not going to vote it out. And an AK or an AR-15 is not going to get rid of evil. Doesn't matter what money you throw at it, nothing's going to change. If we think political change will fix the problems in this country, I'm not saying don't vote. Go ahead. But don't think it's going to fix anything. There's only one thing that puts the world in order, and that's the gospel of Jesus Christ. Paul says to the Thessalonians about the experience they had in Acts. He writes in 1 Thessalonians 1, and he says, our gospel came with power. The word there is dunamis, dynamite. He said, we came into that town and we went, boom, with the gospel, and everything blew up. And all of the lies were demolished and the truth pressed forward. Brothers and sisters, that dynamite has not lost its power. Don't buy the lies. Well, it's a new generation. They're all kind of technical. They play with their phones a lot. They've got huge thumbs because they're always... It's a nonsense. Dynamite never loses its power. In fact, if you find an old box of dynamite out back in the shed, you need to be calling authorities in as quick as possible. We do not lack power. We have the power of the gospel of Jesus Christ. When I was in the Northeast before I left, I met with Antifa. I don't know if you know who Antifa are. Antifa are the guys who all dress in black. And whenever there's a protest or something, whenever there's a chance of a bit of a ruck with the police, a bit of a fight, they'll be down there. No, they'll get armed and stuff like that. And it's all quite well organized. I find that strange because they're anarchists. I mean, how come anarchists can be so well organized? It's just me. But they're organized. When President Trump got into office, I got invited to an Antifa meeting. And I still don't know why they asked me to come. But I went there. And it was in a house, a good friend of mine. And we've been talking about Christ for a number of years. He's an anarchist. You know, got it tattooed all over him. And he's a frontline guy. I mean, if there's a fight to be had, he was going to be in there. I mean, and invites me to his house, says, you know, you come over, we're having a meeting tonight, and would like you to attend. I said, absolutely. So I come over, there's like 8 or 9 people sitting around a table. I get the last seat I've realized that the conversation was going this way, and I get the last seat here. There's a guy sitting at the end of the table, he's in army fatigues and a beret. Like Che Guevara. He just didn't have the persona though. He couldn't really carry it. But he was trying his best. And then they had this discussion. And I realized this had gone on quite a bit in the past. They said, right, you know, we're meeting here tonight. You know, they were very, very afraid. Very, very afraid. And they said, but, you know, because everybody's got thoughts on their mind, we're going to have a discussion. So we want everyone to come up with 3 words about what you're thinking at the moment. And they went around the table, and it was like revolution, fascism, anarchy. Next one went on, it was murder and death and terror. The next one comes along and said revolution, uprising, and all the way around it was all this kind of very volatile language. And they got to me, and they said, what's your 3 words? I said, love your enemy. Boom! That was the end of the meeting. Literally. It was the end of the meeting. The guy with the beret on, he's freaking out. The guy that invited me, he's kind of sniggering because he's got a good sense of humor. But then the discussion started. Then they start talking about, well, what does that really mean? And how can we love these guys? They're going to boot our doors in. And she's half, one of the girls was South American. She's going to get taken into prison. And they were terrified. And then what did Jesus mean with, loving your enemy? And does that mean was he, a pacifist? And this kind of stuff. And I'm getting all this fired at me. And then they start talking about each other. And with each other. And the meeting breaks up. We go in the living room, and everybody goes out for a smoke. That's right. It was like, well, let's calm down, everybody. And they all go out for a tobacco break. And that was the last meeting I got invited to. I got invited off the island. I got voted off. 3 words that Jesus said. Listen. 3 words that he said. Love your enemy. And it threw Antifa into disarray. You think we lack power? Brothers and sisters, mention his name. Mention his name. In a room. I was hanging out with an ex-Green Beret a couple of weeks ago. A real one. 30 years in the service. What they call an operator. Right? I was hanging out with him. He came out of the service. He went into the DEA. He was a special agent for them. He was going all around the world, lived in South America for years, running down these drug dealers. Right? He retired at 57. He comes out of there, goes back into the military, and now he's one of those guys in dark glasses and a suit that when a high-powered general or a military official is moving around, he's in the background just doing this. Armed to the teeth, mind you. I was hanging out with him. I went into a bar with him, Spearfish. The guy behind the bar was an ex-Marine sergeant. He got out of the service. There's me, this Green Beret, the Marine sergeant, and another fella. So we're standing there. It's a quiet afternoon. I mean, it wasn't a party or anything. So I started talking to the barman about Jesus. I said, where are you at spiritually? He says, well, I grew up in Indonesia. I grew up a Muslim. I thought, wow, interesting. And then we talked about Islam. I said, what do you think about Jesus? And then we got into, he's an atheist now. And I said, that's fine. I was an atheist. I said, well, what do you think about him? You think he died for you? You think he buried? You think he rose from the dead? Listen, the Green Beret was shaking. He was like this. This is a man who sent guys into Afghanistan to take out Al-Qaeda. He organized it. And the name of Christ shook him. You think we lack power? We terrify the bravest men on this planet because we talk about Christ. What is it about this name that will change the atmosphere in the room? He's risen. He's risen from the dead. And it's the truth. It's the truth that enters in and terrifies them. And Paul says, this gospel that you received is dynamite. Now, brothers and sisters, it's time for us to blow things up. Not physically, for all of those who are listening, but spiritually. You want to change the world? Mention his name. Mention his name. Anywhere, everywhere. Talk to everyone about him. And you'll see the whole world crumbling. And life appearing. Well, how do you know this gospel has power to redeem everyone? I'm wrapping it up here. That's a good question. I'm an Irishman. I was born this way. So don't hold it against me. When we were kids, we used to make a couple of dollars. We used to get up when we were 10, 12 years old. Maybe 12, yeah. And we'd go down to where they used to bottle milk in glass bottles. The dairy would go down and they would bottle the milk in the dairy. My brothers and I will go down there and we'll wait outside at 2 in the morning for the milkmen to come out, those who were delivering the milk. Because they'd take it to the houses and put it on their doorsteps. So you woke up in the morning, you had your milk there. So we used to get hired on by the milkmen. And my brother became more successful at it than me. He was really committed to it, and he started driving for the milkmen. So he would drive a truck filled with milk. And Billy kept at it for quite a while. Made quite a bit of money from it. He told me this story. He said it was a Friday night or a Saturday night. He said, I remember you being out delivering the milk. It was like 3 in the morning. And he says, we were driving down into the town to deliver the milk. And my partner that was with me nudged me and said, look at the state of that. And he said there was a guy stumbling up the road. You know, 1 step forward, 2, 3 steps back. Falling into the ditch, getting up out of the ditch and keeping going. And and he was laughing. The other milkman was laughing. I said, look at the state of him. My brother Billy turned around and says, yeah, that's my brother Ian. It was me. And you know what the funny thing is? I remember that night, even though I was so hammered. I remember the staggering. I remember the falling. I know exactly where it happened. What a mess I was. What a direction I was going. Now, you might not have been in such a bad situation in your life as that, but we've all got our stories to tell. Oh yes, we have all been in deep distress. We have all been at the end of a rope, and we have all been, as Christians, transformed, redeemed, forgiven, received grace and mercy. And now it's time for us to speak the message of the gospel that brought that salvation to us. The supper, and we're going to do this now. Every first day of the week we do this, and it's terribly repetitive. We all know it's terribly repetitive. Some of us have been doing it for 30 years. Here we go again. Bread and the fruit of the vine, over and over again. Sometimes the bread's a bit kind of stale. Fruit of the vine's kind of old, or it's gone warm while we've been waiting. And it kind of gets repetitive. You're like, okay, here we go. This is it. He's over. He stopped speaking. Hooray. Now we get through this. Nathan leads another good song. We close with a prayer, and we're done. But the repetition, over and over and over again, every first day of the week. And what does it mean? What it means? It really means this. It means this. He's bringing us back to the power. You're looking at a world in chaos. You're looking at a world that's crazy. You're looking at a world that's upside down. What do? And he brings us back to him, to the gospel, to the message, to the power to turn the world the right way up again. That's what we're doing here.